Funding for this program is made possible by the Pittsburgh Foundation. Thank you.
For a lot of the years of my life, my father was incarcerated.
People looking at you and saying, oh, well, you don't have a dad, so you're going to end up this way.
It makes me really sad that I don't get to see her every day.
Their parents are behind bars, and as the prison population grows, so do the numbers of children they are leaving behind.
No one talks about them.
As many as 2 million kids cut off from a mom or dad.
What are all those kids whose parents are in jail? Where are they at?
They're struggling emotionally and financially.
Parents make mistakes, but why should their children pay the price?
The shame and stigma spill down onto the children. Some kids will follow the same unfortunate path, while others thrive despite the challenges.
They see that their voice matters, that their stories matter.
We're leaders.
And that people want to listen to them.
We try to do our best.
And learn from them.
And there is much to learn from the children of incarcerated parents.
Hello, I'm Lisa Washington. It goes without saying that a community should care for its children, but there's a segment of our young population that is sometimes overlooked. They are the children of incarcerated parents. That's the topic of our new WQED documentary, Serving Time 2, which focuses not only on the challenges faced by children who have parents in prison or jail, but also spotlights the people in our region who are working to make things better. We are here in the Fred Rogers studio at WQED, where members of the community have gathered to watch the documentary premiere and to be a part of tonight's live community forum. Beth Dolinar produced this documentary. She is with us in their studio audience now. Beth.
Thanks, Lisa. What we learned in making this documentary is that while a few are working hard for change, many people in the community don't think much about this issue at all. I'll be handling questions from our studio audience, and I can tell you that this group gathered here this evening does care. This is a vital issue, and they're glad to be among those who are speaking out, and they have some questions that they'll be asking later. Lisa?
Beth, thanks so much. Now let's meet our panel. Anna Hollis is the director of Amachi Pittsburgh, a nonprofit that provides support and mentoring for children of incarcerated parents. Jayana Lipscomb is a college student who spent years separated from her father while he was incarcerated. And Amy Kroll, she is the administrator for reentry services at the Allegheny County Jail. Ladies, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. And I want to start with you and Amachi Pittsburgh. This is the work that you do every day. Tell us about the difficulties in reaching children who live with this stigma of having a parent who is behind bars.
Yeah, well, you know, what we learned from this documentary is how difficult it is for families to talk about the issue, to confront it, to go public, you know, to reach out for services and resources sometimes. And so, you know, the way that we reach families is through other community partners. Project Angel Tree is a big partner of ours, and they actually go into the institution, various institutions, and find out where the children are, and then we do a follow-up reach out to connect with families that way.
Because I imagine that for the families, obviously when there are children, it's a huge lack of resources when the parent is no longer in the home. And you say sometimes the kids, there's the stigma of dealing with that, but also not having a parent there as that child is growing.
Yeah, and you know, and the thing about it is, you know, the effects on children starts at the time that that parent becomes involved in the system. And then it's lifelong. You know, the way that young people are impacted, it lasts forever. That's what Jayana spoke to. You know, so when that parent goes away, there's an immediate loss of income. There's immediate loss of that emotional support that that particular parent provides. And then, you know, what we've learned is that many families are then taking out of their limited resources to then care for the incarcerated loved one, to help pay down, you know, court fines and fees and the plethora of other, expenses that are associated with, having a loved one incarcerated. So there are just layers and layers and layers of challenges, and we really need to understand more how we can better support families.
And Jayana, this is your experience, obviously, with your father being incarcerated. You were younger when he went to prison, so you weren't aware of, the things that were, the layers that were affecting your family. You said it's only been a couple of years that you've been able to talk about it.
The first time I spoke about my father's incarceration was actually with Anna and a room of pediatricians, and it was very emotional for me and my family. Me, my mother, and my father actually spoke. At the end, there was a standing ovation. There were so many emotions involved that were never open before. It was the first time I had talked to my mother or my father about his incarceration, so it was a lot. It was a can of worms that was opened up that we had never discussed before. But it helped a lot because it made us a lot closer as a family.
I would say it seems as if you're still unraveling this. Did you realize how much you had been impacted by this when you were younger?
I honestly thought that it had no impact on me until I wrote down on paper what I was going to say to the pediatricians.
Did you have the language? I mean, obviously you knew how you were feeling, but were you even able to express it then? Did you have to, I guess you said Amachi gave you the language to express exactly how you were feeling.
Before Amachi, I definitely had no way to express how I was feeling. A lot of the words, even simply incarceration, was a concept that I didn't readily know. So joining Amachi definitely helped me grow a lot stronger and made it easier to talk about the story.
Why did you say that you feel that there's more confidence when you're able to unravel this? And also, I know at Amachi you say that the child is not the result of the bad action by the parents. So even though there's the stigma, it is not the child's fault. I know you said you felt that way. Did it take you a while to see that, it's not your fault?
Yeah, it took me a very long time. It took a long time for my mom to sit me down and talk to me about it, and for a while I genuinely thought it was my fault. I thought I just wasn't a good daughter. So after sitting down and talking to my dad also, and him just talking to me about it was his mistake and not mine, I was able to understand that I had done nothing wrong.
And did you see your father while he was behind bars?
I actually did not. One of the rules that my mother had was that she didn't let us talk to him. And of course, as a child, I thought it was because she was rude, but it was honestly to protect us. And now that I'm older, I'm happy that she didn't, because I don't think I would have been able to handle it as a child.
You don't think so? Amy, I want to bring you into the conversation. Why is it important for these kids to see their parents who are incarcerated?
Because we know how important it is for kids to be able to touch their parent. And unfortunately, across the United States, most individuals have to visit their family member through glass. And after we saw the trauma the kids go through, beating on those glass windows, trying to reach their parent, we knew how important it was for children to be able, and parents to be able to touch and kiss and hug their kids. And that's why we worked hard to make a change in the jail.
I was going to say, I know you're with Allegheny County Jail, and you say that the parents, to be able to have those visits with their children, they have to go through a process. Can you explain that to us?
Basically, when we began to try to implement these visits, we realized that we didn't, what type of parents people were unknown to us. So what we decided in the jail, and again, because it is a jail, the administration wanted people to earn these visits. So we began parenting classes in the jail, and it actually helped the men and the women understand parenting more. We all have children, and no one gives us a book or sends us to class on how to become a parent. But we understood that there were going to be a lot of different questions by these children to their parents. And we wanted to support the parent to say, you reaching out to your children, and your children may come in here and they may be angry, or they may think that it was their fault. How are you going to embrace your children now that you have been behind these walls for days or months? And then how to be able to support them and handle that. So through these parenting classes, they were able to express their doubts, their fears, and we were able then to, support them as these visits began. But it's just amazing to see the transformation of these families when the kids come in. You see sometimes grown men, when they're ready to say goodbye because the hour is over, break down in tears to say goodbye to their kids. But you realize it's amazing to see them all interacting and just having a good time.
In the documentary, we saw both men and women who were incarcerated. Is there a difference between the genders when there's a mother behind bars as opposed to a father?
Yes, unfortunately. The caregivers, it's a very big difference. During the men's contact visits, there are women bringing children in to see the fathers. But unfortunately, when a woman goes to jail, there are not many men bringing in those children. It's usually the mother or an aunt or somebody, a grandmother of those children bringing them in. It's really, really different to see the caregivers during a female visit compared to the male's visits because it's all women in there. So we really realized the male figure is not there when a female goes to jail. And it's a lot of concern on the mother that is incarcerated. Who will care for my children while I'm in here?
I see. Let's go to Beth now. She has a question from the audience.
Yes, this is a financial question, and in the documentary we talk about $13,000 a year it can cost a family who has an incarcerated member. The question is, what specifically is done to help these families financially wise? And I guess that would be for Anna or Amy. Where can they get help financially to stay connected?
Wow, that's a huge problem that has to be solved. We don't have the means to provide any financial support for our families. I wish we did. There are not, to my knowledge, any additional services through government agencies of financial support for families. So the reason that you have that statistic of a family going into debt on average of $13,000 is because there is no financial support.
And we're not just talking about a phone call. I mean, obviously the phone calls are expensive,
right,
but there's other ways that the families are impacted just in meeting their basic needs.
Yeah, absolutely. The national study recently showed that about half of families have a problem meeting their basic needs after that parent becomes incarcerated. And the burden disproportionately falls on women in the family, like Amy spoke to. So, it really creates sort of that cycle of the sort of that cascading effect on the kids and that next generation, because a family that was already low income pre-incarceration is now further set back. So what expectations do we have for that young person and for that family to be able to advance economically? It's not going to happen.
You use the
unless we do something differently.
You were going to say something, Amy.
Well, I know that with our parenting program in the jail, we actually try to help the families that are involved. They are given once a week a phone call. It is not a collect call home to the family. We have our instructors, working with the caregivers on the outside, and they try to set up a time for that call to come to the house, where the mom or dad on the inside does make that call. It is not collect, and it's, we're there to support them through any difficult time. The other thing is, while we're on the call with the family, we do have the resources through the Department of Human Services. So if there are problems with heat and light and other things, we do try to use whatever resources. No, is there an unlimited pot of money to help those families? No, but because of our instructors have such a diverse background of what is out there to try to support the family. And we are starting a new initiative through Pittsburgh Mercy, of where the instructors in the jail will now be going into the community, interviewing the family, doing an assessment with the family. How can we support you while your loved one's still in jail?
Right.
And help them understand what their resources are out in Allegheny County to maybe lessen some of the burden. So we've come a long way. We got a long way to go.
Let's take another question from the audience.
I believe that Jehana will be able to speak to this. The question is that once, in the documentary we mentioned that when the kids become teenagers, they often have had enough and they're frustrated. Does Amachi and Jehana, if you could talk to, how is that tried to reconnect it after teenagers maybe move into adulthood? Is there an effort made to get them back into a relationship with the incarcerated parent?
The effort is definitely always there, though, because still to this day, I'll always want the relationship with my father that I never got to have. So we'll always try. We keep in contact now, but just because of the years that were missed, it's hard to reconnect because there's still things that he doesn't know about me because he wasn't there to know. So it gets really hard trying to connect on a deeper level.
And is that something that you, when you work with these kids, that you know, you're 15 or 16 and the parents reaching out and he wasn't there for 5, 6, maybe even longer, what do you say? How do you open that connection?
Well, I think the thing about it is, you know, you can't make the goal reconnecting with your parent, right? Just start with what's happening with that kid and understanding what's happening with that kid. Find out what, you know, I think once you get to hone in on what that teenager is struggling with, address that first. And then you can start to move into reconnecting. It's a conversation that, you know, needs to happen in the process of time and really understanding what that child is struggling with and what the child needs.
So you're saying start with now, don't try to go back to when that parent was taken away.
Start with now, give them a platform, a safe space to just unpack everything. Remember, they've been having these emotions and, you know, frustrations bottled up for years. And just like not even really understanding how to process the experience. You know, Jayana said she didn't talk with her parents about it. Everybody just sort of, they knew about this thing, but they just went along. So there wasn't a healthy opportunity, a space, a safe space to unpack, to process, to cry, to scream, to laugh, to, you know, to understand and to take steps forward, baby steps forward to try and reconnect. So when you don't have that, you can't repair it in a day. And it's too vast you know, difference to go from having no contact for years to, oh, let's be reconnected. You know, it's baby steps to get there.
And you have to look at all the emotions. I remember in the documentary, Johanna, you said that, you know, you were feeling one way, your father who's away is feeling one way, and then your mom is angry. So that's part of the reason you say you didn't see your father.
A lot of my mom was very angry because she wasn't thinking about him, she was thinking about us. She was thinking about the fact that she was now going to have to be a black single mother raising 4 children. And it was really hard on her. There was a lot of pressure on her. And she was really angry about it. And I think that rubbed off on me for certain periods of my life because I began to know nothing but anger and it was all pointed towards my father.
And I want to talk to you about intergenerational incarceration, essentially the likelihood or the chance that because my parent has spent time behind bars, I too will be behind bars at some point in my life. Is the research accurate? We saw in the documentary anywhere from 30 to 70%.
Yeah. So, you know, the thing about it is, you know, it's not having a parent incarcerated. I mean, we just saw families who have overcome, right? And it happens every day. Folks are overcoming this. So it's not just the fact that there's a parent incarcerated. It's what that means. It's what having an incarcerated parent means. It's how the family is affected and whether that family is getting the support and resources that they need to overcome those challenges. So if you're further set back, you know, financially, you know, if you're emotionally traumatized by the experience, you're living in a community where you're, you know, predisposed to violence and crime, you know, then those are the factors that can lead, you know. But another study just recently showed how, you know, teenagers are developing at a higher rate mental health issues as a result of, you know, parental incarceration. So if those things are unaddressed, then they can lead to the behaviors that then lead to incarceration.
So it's not because my parent, it's the actual factor of that. Let's go to Beth for another question from the audience.
Sure, Lisa. This is a question about overall prison reform. You know, the question is, how realistic is it that we would have any kind of meaningful incarceration reduction or prison reform that would then help the children?
I mean, the good news is the pendulum during the 80s and 90s swung to lock them up and throw away the key. Well, the pendulum is states have seen time and time again that we can't incarcerate ourselves out of this problem. So the pendulum has swung in the other direction of rehabilitation and of using other alternatives to jails. So the opiate crisis and individuals being involved in the whole drug culture. They are trying to divert individuals that have been using, that are addicts, out of the jail. I mean, we're doing them no good if they're sitting in jail. They need a rehab. So there are a lot more programs, and we are seeing state after state that are actually using a lot of community resources in their jails and on the outside, so that we're slowly swinging the other way. I think unfortunately, this forgotten generation of kids is slowly being addressed. But while they're working on more of the incarcerated parents, the children are still pretty much forgotten. So that we still need to come a long way in that way.
Amy, I wouldn't expect you to have hard numbers, but what would you say of the families that you see, the parents who are behind bars, who go through the process of being able to have the visits with their children, are from nonviolent crimes?
Oh, I would say easily 75%.
Really?
We know in the jail, I think the statistic is there's only 30% that are more violent. Everybody else is in there for nonviolent crimes. And again, we know it's around 70-some% because of drugs.
Okay, let's talk about failure versus success. We saw the documentary, we saw kids who were thriving, who had something that was a part of their story that actually pushed them towards success. How do you use that? How do you infuse that into the child to, can actually push them on to continue to do well? I imagine these children are hurting when they come to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we have besides our mentoring program, that's sort of our core programming, we have a program called Amachi Ambassadors. And so when our kids get to the high school level, we want them to understand the power that they have to make change happen in their lives. So they learn how to advocate for themselves. They learn how to educate our legislators and other policymakers. So folks are making decisions that directly impact their lives, and they haven't had a say in that decision-making process. So we provide for them the tools and the opportunities to become engaged in the process. So they find a seat at the table where they can weigh in on what they need. And our youth, have gone to Harrisburg and, testified in front of legislators. They have facilitated conferences nationally, to talk about the issue and to challenge, policymakers to consider their needs when they're making these decisions. And so we are seeing change, like Amy said. In Pennsylvania, there was a bill that passed called the First Chance Trust Fund, or First Chance Act, that establishes a new trust fund for that will provide programming and scholarships for kids who are considered vulnerable to the criminal justice system.
Excellent.
So,
Another question, Beth.
Yeah, I have 3 or 4 here asking basically the same thing. For people who are not personally affected by incarceration of a family member, what is it that they can do to improve things for the children who are?
give me your phone number first.
Resources, I would imagine. Yes.
Mentor. Please get involved on the advocacy side. People need to hear from you, right? People who are making decisions about you and on your behalf that will directly affect, well, whether it's you or other families, they need to hear from you, and they need to be challenged and held accountable for making changes that are going to benefit children and families and communities. There's an organization here tonight, Moore is here from an organization called FAM, and they are actually providing training for folks who want to advocate for policy change, whether you're directly affected or not. There are a plethora of organizations that have volunteer opportunities. Like I said, we provide mentoring for kids. There's so many different things you can do, so please see us after the program or get on our website, amachipgh.org. There are a number of other agencies that are doing some policy and advocacy work too, like the ACLU. And so we really have to come together. It's about collective impact, right? There's strength in numbers. We've heard that all of our lives, and it's really true. We need to show up and we need to show out.
And Joanna, I know that you are now working sort of with Amachi, maybe even in some ways as a role model. How for you to be able to talk to kids who are younger than you, who were living the experience that you had?
It's been honestly one of the most amazing experiences I've had, being able to talk to children younger than me, because a lot of kids nowadays, they find it hard to find a role model or have someone to look up to. So being as though that I'm not that far in age from them and I was able to experience what they did, they have someone that they can trust and they have someone that they know they can confide in if they need something.
And I know that you have big plans. You're a college student now. Tell us about your plans for the future and how your situation has impacted what you want to do with your life.
I am currently in the fall, I will be a junior at Point Park University. I study political science. And after my education at Point Park University, I actually wish to go to law school. My desired career is a Supreme Court justice, just because I personally feel like everyone deserves the same rights and everyone's voices deserve to be heard. And I feel like as a Supreme Court justice, interpreting the Constitution and hearing cases that others couldn't figure out is just the way I can help everyone instead of helping one single person.
And Amy, this really goes back to the advocacy of what you're saying, Amachi, to have the resources, the policymakers, and even in the prisons and jails for these parents who want to see and interact with their kids.
Exactly, and I think if anything, we want to use Allegheny County Jail as a role model to other jails. Mainly, if you go around to any of the counties around us, they don't have contact visits. All their family members visit them through the class. And we're hoping to have an impact county by county of saying it's really important to have these contact visits with parent and child. And so we're hoping that this will spread across the state, that these visits are extremely important.
Excellent. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us for this panel. Some very important conversations, and we know a lot has been done, but there's still much more work to be done about this important topic. Now, to watch the WQED documentary Serving Time 2 and for other resources related to this project, go to WQED.org/incarcerated. Knowing more about this issue can only make our community stronger. On behalf of the entire team here at WQED, I'm Lisa Washington. Thanks for watching.